Hey everyone! Happy Tuesday! Okay, so I'm gonna try to do this as fast as I can before I lose my mind over this Frozen music. Okay, so I got a lot of requests to do Olaf from Frozen. Before I get to that, if you're new here, if you've never joined in on this painting segment that we do Monday through Friday, this is just a way to encourage social distancing. I know a lot of y'all are at home, so News West and I just kind of wanted to do a lot of fun stuff while you guys are kind of hanging out at home. And so if you're an artist, or even if you're not an artist, this is just a way to get your creative juices going. So I had a lot of requests to do Olaf from Frozen, and I'm gonna try to make this as easy as I can. And I figure, you know, Dylan has been talking about this like 90-degree weather, and I know some areas in West Texas have been seeing close to 100 degrees, so let's do a melting Olaf, okay? All right. So let's get started. First, I'm going to show you how to do just the basic shape of Olaf. So let's start out. He's going to be separated. So his whole body is not going to be attached because he's a melting snowman. Okay, so you're going to start out with this kind of shape. Kind of looks like the top of a hat a little bit. All right, and then here, we're gonna drag it down. Kind of looks like a shield, but it's not going to point. It's gonna kind of straighten up right here. So that's his head, okay? And then I'm going to add his torso. This is his little torso. So you're gonna kind of do this like little circle right here. And then let's do his body right here, okay? I gotta tell y'all, I used to work with kids, and I've only seen Frozen twice. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. So, and it didn't really take long until like I started to memorize all the song lyrics. Okay, so he's a melting Olaf, right? Okay. So his body's a little separated. We're gonna add some, kind of like some of the melting snow right here. So you can paint the background blue, and then once you do, you're gonna go back while the paint is still wet to add little white lines on the outside of him. So I'll explain that in a second. Actually, I'm one step ahead of the game, not gonna lie. Well, bam! Like that. I did that because I wanted the paint to dry as soon as possible. Okay, so I'm gonna go over this part and kind of touch up some of that white. So let me get my handy dandy paint. You're not really using a big color palette. Okay. Yeah, so see how some of this blue is over. I didn't even paint this white yet, so let's do that. I swear, when I was just painting the background for this one, I had that summer song stuck in my head. Just Olaf's voice singing in my brain. And it's probably gonna be stuck in my head all day. So I'm just gonna clean this part up. And the reason why I wanted to leave some of this part, I wanted to paint around this, is because if you do cover the whole thing blue, well, first, you're not even gonna get the idea of where you want his head to be. So by drawing that first and then painting around it, then you can create these ripples. So like I said earlier, by adding some of the white while the blue paint is still wet, that's gonna help you kind of blend some of that. So. Hi, John. Okay, now this part, I'm going to clean this part up. So kind of what I was explaining earlier, you see how this part right here, you can kind of see some of that blue peeking through. Just imagine if you were doing the whole background blue, you're gonna have to do several coats to make sure some of that blue doesn't show up. This is called making the paint opaque, so none of this shows. Try not to get your hand on the canvas while it's still wet. I used 2 different shades of blue. It was like actually this one like a darker blue. This one is a bright blue. It says bright blue, but it really comes out like a medium blue. Do you want to paint a snowman? That should be the cover. Doesn't Olaf like the summer? He likes the summer, right? So this is fitting. He would love West Texas. This is his foot, by the way, this part right here. Okay, now the next step is I'm going to add some gray. So what I'm going to do is kind of outline some of his body. Not really outline it, but just add some shading. So I'll put a little bit of black there and then use a lot of white. Just go back and forth on my palette. Okay, so here's what I mean. So we're gonna touch this up in a second. Okay, so you're gonna add some of that gray, but we're gonna blend that in. Now I'm gonna do the same right here. Just make sure the gray reaches the edge because you don't want to have a white line. Okay. I'm going to do some right here, just a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to go back and touch some of that with the white while that gray is still wet. If you're using oil, I wouldn't even rush this, but because it's acrylic, you kind of have to work a little fast, but so I'm just going back and forth with my brush to slowly blend out some of that gray. Okay. You don't want harsh lines on Olaf. And I'm not using too much. Like on my palette right here, I'm dipping just a slight bit, just a little bit. Now his face. Okay. So this part, I could see some of the blue still peeping through. I'm just gonna touch that up. I would just say if you're gonna add some of that shading, just do it to one side. You don't have to go all the way around. Okay, now I am going to do his face. I'm gonna let that dry for a little bit. Now I'm gonna use a smaller brush. This one, very, very tiny. Actually, no, I'm not, I lied. I'm gonna do this one. Hey, Debbie! A little smaller brush. This is gonna be very helpful. So this is gonna be his little, I was gonna call them antennas. Those little sticks that he has like a few sticks that pop up on the top of his head. So I'm just gonna have this. Just a little small line. And then do one that's a little higher. What's up, Robert? Okay, can you still see that? Now I'm gonna connect. Just one more. I think he has 3 sticks. But I don't want too much paint. Thank you, Delpha. Do y'all have a favorite Disney character? I kind of like the classics, like the stuff from the Vault. 2D animation, kind of my favorite thing. Okay, so there was I'm being a perfectionist right here. Just had a little bit of the stick through. Okay. Now, just to make sure this is completely dry, I'm just gonna use a blow dryer, just real quick. Okay. Now I'm going to sketch his face. So Olaf has these really big bug eyes. Kind of like, so you see this part where it gets a little wide? They're very close together, very, very circular. So I'm just gonna sketch that out real quick. Your boy Mickey? Mickey is, I like Steamboat Willie Mickey. Very, very classic there. And he has these eyebrows way up here, very, shows a lot of expression. Okay, I don't like the way it looks. That's why we're sketching. I think I want to add them a little lower. I don't know what it is. I think it's the music that's making me crazy. This is the Frozen on Broadway. Frozen on Broadway. Did you just melt Olaf? I did melt Olaf. It's 100. We're some areas in West Texas. We're close to 100 degrees, right? No, he loves it. He's gonna be happy. Olaf loves the summer. I think he does. I thought he does. So his nose is like this orange triangle. Okay, now we're gonna add his smile. It's gonna be really big. So I'm gonna have it stop right here. And then kind of have it fall inward. And he has these really big teeth right here. So, I'm going to touch up on this. And make sure you have a pencil when you're painting. Sketch out his face. Okay, so for this part, I'm going to, I know it's going to look crazy. You're going to see it looks crazy, but I'll show you why I'm doing this. Those eyes that you just drew, you're going to color it black. All of it. But Jolina, he doesn't have black eyes, I know. This is a Jolina painting hacks. Okay, maybe not like all of it, but just the top part. Okay. Yeah, he looks crazy, but I'll show you why we're doing this. Looks like he's wearing eyeliner. He's getting ready to go to a show or something. Okay, now I'm gonna let that dry for a little bit. And then I'm gonna do his eyebrows. So I'm using a really thin paintbrush. It's the same thing that I use. Because you don't want to use a thick brush and give him crazy eyebrows. So when you're shopping and you can't decide if you should get like what kind of paintbrushes you should get, I would say get the ones that are very smooth. When you touch them, they're like smooth brushes, because some of the ones with the rough bristles, some of the bristles do fall on your painting. I stopped using those like years ago. And you want to get some that are... Ooh, he's looking flawless. Okay, Olaf, I see you. Okay, whatever. Now, make sure your paint is dry before you work on it. Let me fix his eyes. So here's why we have his eyelids looking all crazy. Because he's actually not going to look like that. You're going to go back in the white, but the reason why you want to do the black is because those are going to be his eyelids, and it's easier to go over it. And I'll show you. So you're going to turn this into an eyelid. So you want them to eventually kind of look like C's right here, like upside down C's. But you don't want his eyelids to look too thick. He's not supposed to look like he's wearing eyeliner or like eyeshadow. Okay, I need more paint. Okay, some of that is still wet. It's fine. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. While that is drying, I'm gonna let that dry, and then you're gonna use some orange. So this is gonna be his nose, like a little carrot. It's gonna be kind of like a rounded triangular shape, and it's gonna point up. So the bottom of his nose is gonna be wider, and then it's gonna get thinner up on top. So you're not just gonna use one shade of orange. I mean, you can if you want, especially if you have kids and if they want to just do this, they can just use one shade of orange, but you want to add some shading, and I'll show you how. So a little bit, just a tad bit, I'm going to dip into the black, and I'm going to brush it on my palette right here. I know it looks like all this paint is wet, but I already know what colors I've used today, so I'm not worried about this. So what happens is you start to create this really dark orange, and that's kind of what you want. Kind of like a brown, a little bit. And you're going to add some of that brown. I'm just getting off the excess right here. So I'm going to start doing that on the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to kind of add these like little lines that kind of go up like this, up his nose, using some of that brown that I had. Doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as people can see that that's obviously a carrot nose. Okay, now I'm going to go back in the black, and I keep washing my brush in between each one since I'm changing colors right here. Okay, now I'm going to go on his mouth, and you're going to make sure it's all black, and remember that you gave him little buck teeth, so make sure you keep that white. So the only reason why I'm using a smaller brush is because I am working with a smaller canvas. So I feel the bigger your canvas is, then you're not going to have to use crazy small brushes like this. I'm just gonna clean up some of the edges up here. And like I said, it's easier with a flat brush, in my opinion. Okay. I'm gonna go back and forth on my brush, and then I'm just gonna add a line that goes right across here. Just very lightly. Okay. Okay, now I'm gonna go back on his eyes, make sure my brush is completely clean, because you don't want to have some of that black show up. Wow, this music is super dramatic, and I love it. Okay, now we're gonna add little pieces of coal for his little buttons. I think they're coal. Okay, so I'm just gonna add, doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Could be like a crooked square, kind of rough edges. Something like that. And then for his third body, the third part of his body right here, you're gonna have two little coal pieces here. So you see how they're not perfect circles? That's the whole point. Okay, and then the next thing I'm gonna do, let me see if, is he dry? No, he's still a little wet. Okay. So you can also add his arms. I think I'm gonna use this again. I really like this one. Okay, so I'm gonna use some black. Let me sketch first. See how I want to put his arms. I'm gonna put his arms right here. So he kind of has these stick arms, and then they kind of have I think he has like 4 little fingers, like a thumb, little. So it's a stick, so you don't want it to be completely perfect. There you go. You got one stick there. And then I'll do the other one right here. Whoops. I'm gonna touch that up in a second. Yeah, be careful, y'all. You don't want to mess up your Olaf painting. Okay, let me fix that. There you go. See? White paint is like your eraser right here. Okay. Now, we're gonna do his eyes. So I'm gonna dip my paintbrush, the back of the paintbrush, in the black. Is that really the entire soundtrack? It can't be. Okay. Now I'm gonna start out in the middle. And his pupils aren't that small. Like, look how crazy he looks. You want to start out small until you're satisfied with how he looks, because he has really big pupils. Okay, so let's say I'm okay with that one. Like, you see, start out small. Wow, he looks insane. Okay. So you see what I'm doing? I'm kind of doing this circular motion. There you have it. Little Olaf in West Texas 100-degree weather. Because be prepared, y'all. If you're going to be outside, make sure you stay hydrated, okay? It's going to be very, very hot. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed that. If you have any suggestions for what we should do, let me know, okay? All right, guys, have a great Tuesday, and I will see y'all soon. Bye-bye.